Hey guys, it's your nerdy suburban farmer back with another video. Today's video is back in the wormery. Starting with my totes, I did try to dry out the totes. Again, being in New Jersey, in the summer the totes get a lot wetter due to the humidity. So in my one bin that I kept pretty much normal, it is still very wet. And the material wasn't soggy, but a lot heavier than I wanted it to be. In the second bin where I put the mosquito netting or screen, it was a little bit drier, but not as dry as I would have liked it to be. So this week I'm going to try something different. In an effort to absorb the water, I'm putting cardboard underneath the full bin container, hoping to draw that moisture down. And I'm going to do this in both of the bins. So I'm just moving the material out of the way so I can get to the bottom and put cardboard at the bottom of this bin, but I do the same process to both bins. Despite the worm castings being very wet and heavy, the worms are still thriving in the material that I have. Even though the melons do make the bin a little bit wetter, I am gonna feed the rest of the summer melons that I have until I run out, because the worms really like it, so I want to keep them happy while still trying to drain the bins. So it's the usual routine: feed them, add in the grit, and then cover them back up. I will be doing the same thing this week with this bin number 1, putting the bubble wrap folded up in the middle and covering it with the mosquito net or screen. But for bin number 3, I will be putting on the cheesecloth over top. I didn't have any additional screen, but I wanted something that's going to allow it to breathe and the water to evaporate without allowing in any additional pests or bugs from the outside. Moving over to totes numbered 2 and 4. These are my Vermi bag totes, and they're a bit drier around the edges. Now this is the one that was wetter the previous week, and the castings do appear clumpier, not as clumpy as the other 2 totes that aren't in a Vermi bag tote, but it is a bit drier than the other 2. And as I'm digging around beyond the squash that is here, there really isn't any food. And since there isn't any cardboard as well, I'm going to give this one final feeding this week before putting it into the harvesting stage, where I won't be feeding it to make sure all the bits are broken down and it dries out a bit before harvesting. Now I chose to feed on top of the tote this week instead of digging in and putting the food in a little valley. No reason other than I wanted to kind of keep it up towards the top instead of having the moisture go down towards the bottom. To keep the bag a little bit wetter, I am going to cover with the bubble tape. Again, Vermibag totes stay a bit drier. And in the second bag, this one around the edges was the one that was drier than the first. The consistency of the casting in this bin is drier and it holds its form a lot better. This is more so the consistency of the compost that I would like. Just like its other bin that's in the Vermibag tote, there is hardly any cardboard left, hardly any food. So I'm going to do the same thing and give it a feeding on the top and set it up for harvesting for next week. And lastly, moving on to the Vermibag Mini, I am happy to announce that I was successful in eliminating a lot of the beetles. There weren't many on the bubble wrap and there weren't any on top of the cardboard. So it did help a lot, that and the diatomaceous earth. Here I'm just checking the consistency, and the castings were still a bit wet but getting drier. I opted to give a bigger feeding to the bin this week, as I believe I'm going to skip a feeding on this next week. So this will give it the opportunity to dry out a little bit. But with the feeding that I gave, I always put some grit on the top and mix it in a little bit, and I will cover it with the bubble tape at the end. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.